Awesome. So happy to have you on today, Eric. What we're really going to do, I really am curious to know a lot more about your story, you know, different ups and downs that we all go through as artists, and a little bit of advice also for the listeners as to like what can they do to really keep moving forward towards their goals. A lot of people I talk to a lot of artists every day. I try to give them as much advice as I can. A lot of them quit. Like a lot of them message me and they're like, I just ended up quitting. Um, so if we could do something positive for the art community, I would hope it would be to prevent as much of that as we can.
Yeah.
So,
Well, doing anything with art is it's hard, man. It's hard. And I think the difficulty is what makes it great. I think it's got such a high risk to actually be successful. You have to take a lot of risk, a lot of chances, but the reward for that is a lot higher because the risk is greater. Obviously, it's not safe. It's not safe to say,
right.
oh, I want to be an artist, I want to do this. Everybody's path is different. I mean, the biggest key is drawing daily. You know what I mean? And just drawing and growing and observing and just drawing. Like that's it. And that's
Mm,
the problem. That's where life kind of comes in and kind of trips us up, and we got to do this thing, or we got to do that thing, we got to go here, we got to go and we're not drawing. You're not spending time at the board. And so a lot of the cares and concerns of just life will keep you from drawing. And then eventually you're just going to like stop, and it's just like
yeah.
anything else. If you don't use it, you lose it. So, you got to kind of keep at that to actually have the hope or the possibility or the potential for success. To get where you want to go, you got to do a little bit every day. I mean, you have to. And I mean, there are different ways. Again, everyone's story is different. For me, like in order to make that happen, because I was completely not doing art, you know what I mean? Like I did art in high school and I loved it. It was great. It was my favorite class. But when I got out of high school, I wanted to go to art school. I wanted to pursue it. And, my parents didn't really facilitate it at that
Yeah.
time. They weren't like, they were like, no, this is not a good idea. And I was like, but this
Mm,
is what I do. This is what I've done. This is what I want to do. And so they were like, very much like, why don't you go to a local community college and do all the English and science and all in the math and all the things that I didn't want to do? And they were like, if you do that for 2 years, then we'll talk about it, and we won't send you to an art school, but maybe we'll send you to another school that maybe has an art program. And it's like, who wants that? You know what I mean?
yeah. No, no.
So I was like, forget it, and I grew up kind of with in the whole punk rock scene. So it was like everybody was in a band. Like whatever you wanted to do, you did that thing. You know what I mean? It didn't matter if you were signed to a label or whatever. You did it. Like you got some friends and you got some instruments and you played some shows, and whether they were good or not, like that's just what you did.
That's
So,
awesome, dude.
with that kind of mentality, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to do this. And so I tried to do freelance kind of on my own. And that's like its own monster. That's like
Mm.
its
Why
own
don't why
thing.
don't we actually like take a minute to talk about that? Like, because I'm at a point where I no longer want to do any freelancing.
Okay.
Like, I don't take any commissions unless it's like really, really like a really good friend of mine, or like they really pay me really well,
Yeah.
or I don't like look for any kind of freelancing opportunities. And I have my own reasons for that, but I'd like to hear like what has been kind of like your background and what you've done as far as freelancing that you'd be cool with sharing here today.
Originally, when we're talking freelancing, and I think a lot of it is just kind of it's kind of a necessity. You kind of like have to do that. So in the beginning, I didn't want to do that. I didn't want
Yeah.
to freelance. I thought I did, but as I began to do it, and here's the difference. I think if you're kind of with a company, if somebody's paying, if that's your job to kind of design and do art, then their expectation expectations, and it's kind of like, well, this is what we're doing and we're going to make this happen, and this is kind of what I needed to be like. And they kind of have a frame of reference, and you kind of have a frame of reference, and you work together a while, and it's easier. When you take the average person, they don't know what they want.
Yeah.
Right? They want you to draw something. They want it to be epic, but they don't know what they want.
Yes.
So they're like, do this thing. And you're like, well, what thing? And just do the thing. And so you do this thing, and they're like,
yes.
I don't know about this thing.
I hate that.
Yeah. And so it's like, can we do it like this? Can we do it like that? Can we change this? Can we change that? And
like guidelines from the start.
It takes all, but see, here's the thing is you asked them before you started, you were like, hey, what do you want?
Yeah.
I'll do it. What do you want? No. You do your thing.
No, do what you want. I don't want to limit you.
Yeah.
Do what you want. Yeah.
And then when you draw it, it's like, no, I don't want that anymore. Can you try this? Can you add this? Can we add 18 more people? And
yes.
It's unbelievable. So it takes all the fun out. And so at a very early age, I realized that wasn't fun. That wasn't what I wanted to do. And so I just kind of stopped, and I pursued other avenues. I pursued music and film and, writing and other things until I finally got that fire to go back to my roots and start drawing again. So
that's epic, man. That's really cool. Awesome. I love that because I relate to that a lot. Like I started off with the whole like, let's just do the graphic design thing. Like that's the safer route. Like my parents were like, just do. And then I was like, man, like designing logos sucks. Like I absolutely hate that because then the clients like let's say you like paint this. Let's say it's a commission. You paint this character or whatever. You paint like maybe even a portrait, and it's like, oh, it looks good, but can you like rotate it? Like if it's some like 3D object, it's like that means I have to do the whole thing over again. What do you mean rotate?
Yeah.
So like
you don't get paid for that. You don't get paid for that. Yeah. So you have to be like super specific before you start, and I'll do so many layouts or I'll do so many revisions, and after that, you're paying per revision. Yeah. But I mean, nobody knows that when you're starting out as an artist. You don't know those things. You don't know that that's what you're supposed to do, and
exactly.
You don't know what you're doing, and people don't know what they want, and the whole thing is a big mess. And so I decided not to do that. When I went to the Kubert School, we had classes about making contracts and
that's good.
And doing layouts, doing design. We had to treat these assignments like they were jobs. Basically so we could feed ourselves when we got out of school. And so I think when you go into it that way, it kind of teaches you a lot about that and what to expect, what to be okay with, what's not okay. And then too, doing like the con scene, you pick up a lot of commissions, a lot of, I do book sales at cons, but a lot of, the money I make is from like private commissions. People want me to draw this or that. And most of the time at cons, they're cool. They've looked at your portfolio and they say, okay, this is what you do. I like that. Could you do my character? Or could you do this character? Or could you just do one of these characters? Just something. I just want to have something. I want something original. And you say, yeah, sure. And you do what you want and it's tons of fun. But sometimes it's not like that, especially when you do like online, art jobs or whatever. People contact you independently. And they want you to do stuff, and sometimes it's kind of like, did you even look at my art? Like, why are you asking? Of all the things you saw on my website or on social media or in my portfolio, like, why would you think that I should do this thing? You know what I mean?
But how do you think I would be the one for that job? Totally. Totally. And
but
then another thing too, like I've had the experience where like maybe you even like the work that you're doing with like a particular company, and then the whole thing just goes under. Like I was doing, I was a storyboard illustrator for like an indie game company that actually like generated a lot of money on Kickstarter. So they reached out to me. It was like a referral kind of thing. Like a friend was like, oh, I think you'd be great for this. So she recommended me. They reached out to me and it was good. And I got paid like decently. And then the whole thing just went under. And it's like, so now it's like, okay, I guess I'm looking for the next, freelancing thing.
You're teaching, right? Is that your job? Is that?
Yeah. So
Or are
currently,
you volunteering?
no. Currently, I do. I have like my own online mentorship, which has been great. I have like private students. I work with them. Just depends on like their goals, how long we work together. But I work with them like exclusively, and it's like very, very close knit, and that's been awesome
Yeah,
because
that's
we get to talk about things we want to talk about. No more freelancing and the can you fix this? Can you fix like it's and you see like it's actually like changing people's lives. Like people feel like
yeah.
really transformed after they go through with the teaching, and then you have like cool friends now because like you have people that are trying to do the same thing as you. So it's been cool.
That's awesome. There are so many people that want to do like what we do. They want to get better at art, but maybe they don't have the opportunity to go to an art school.
Right.
Like, I didn't right out of high school. It took me a long time
Same.
and a
Same.
lot of student loans, and it was really my wife that was like, hey, you should go do this thing. And it was like, okay. But without her, I would not have been able to make that happen. Without that support group, it wouldn't have happened.
Right.
I wouldn't be where I am. So a lot of people don't have that opportunity, but they want to do this. And so then the only way that they know of to be able to do like comics is to, get picked up by Marvel or by DC
Right.
or, Image if they're lucky, or, and some people want to be mangaka. So it's like they're trying to send their stuff to Japan, and that's not gonna
Yeah, that's
happen.
not
You
gonna
know what I
happen.
mean? But it's like
Well,
that
let's talk
is
about because a lot of people that just hearing that statement would probably confuse them that that's not going to happen. In your opinion, why do you feel like that's not going to happen? Then I'll share mine.
the just like the scene here, the scene in Japan, like comics are huge in Japan, manga is huge in Japan, and I feel like it's super saturated with really talented local artists that live there, speak the language, are involved. Maybe we're an assistant for somebody for a time,
Yeah.
so it's different. Like, really, we're on the outside. Really, they don't mind. The Japanese culture doesn't mind selling us their books. They want us to enjoy them, but it's kind of their thing. They would I feel like they would kind of like us to figure out what our own thing is. You know what I mean?
Get
And it's
lost.
different, I think. No, I'm serious, but
I know what you
yeah,
mean.
kind of, and they're super cool about it. But it's kind of
Yeah.
it's kind of like that. It's like I think it's different if you go there and live there and speak the language
Right.
and live the life. Then
Yes.
it's like, all right. But if we're over here, like doing it, and we're like, oh well, let's see if Google Translator can help. Like they're
Yeah.
just like, no, man.
Awful.
It's,
Yeah. Yeah. It's
I
not the
mean,
same thing.
it's hard enough to get a job doing American comics here in America. Like I personally feel like getting a job in another country doing comics is like close to impossible. Now, I'm not saying it's completely
Not completely, but
impossible.
yeah.
There are always exceptions. You've got to be exceptional.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not on that level. Like, I tried to get my stuff in Japan. I thought that, I could do that too. But they were just like, no. They're like, thanks, kid, but no.
Was that something you want to talk about? Like maybe that experience of like the trial and error? Because the theme of this really today, I guess, is like how fear, how I had it written down so nicely. So how despite
Yeah.
fear, like moving towards whatever is like your roadblock,
Yeah.
pushing through that gives you what you want in life. And
Yeah.
even though you hear the word like no, and I've read your post, you've heard the word no many times.
Oh yeah.
You still like you're a successful artist. You have two books that have been backed. Your art style is amazing, which is that was one of the first things I was like, wow, like this is different. Like this is different than a lot of artists that I see. So like, what about hearing no has helped you to just keep going despite any of those problems?
It's funny, and there are tons of like no stories, but like even Jim Lee, like before he started, like he wrote so many letters, sent out so much artwork, and it was no, like no, 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 your hands are wrong, fix this, fix that, no,
Mm.
no, no. And he had this cool like editorial thing, but he had like this ridiculous amount of letters that he had gotten back. And so it's kind of the same. You have to hear no so many times before you hear the yes. And there have been a lot of famous artists that say, you have X amount of bad drawings before you get to the good stuff, or X amount of bad stories before you get to the good stuff, or bad songs or bad writings or whatever. Like, so it's kind of like a journey thing. And I think all the no's are just training us and teaching us and figuring out. And I mean, art is subjective. Like, some people are going to like what you do.
Yeah.
Some people are going to love what you do. Some people are not going to like it as much, but I think
so if someone says no, it doesn't mean no because that everyone would say no. Maybe just that particular person would know. So it's almost like, don't take it personally.
No. And don't, absolutely don't. I think that the most important thing is that you like what you do.
Yeah.
Okay? You're the one that has to live with yourself. You're going to leave whatever legacy behind, whatever drawings behind, whatever. So you have to really enjoy what you do, appreciate what you do, and develop and craft what it is that you do in your own individual kind of way, your own kind of authentic way. That's only you, And I think that's the really, really good stuff. A lot of people are, and that's where the fear comes in, because it's scary to do that. It's scary to put 100% you out there. You know what I mean? Because then it's open for ridicule. It's like, what is this garbage? This is terrible. That's your heart and your soul and your sweat and your blood and your ink. And they're like, I don't like it.
Yeah.
And so then you feel like, oh, they don't like me.
Right.
And it is an extension of ourselves. It does come from, but it's not you. It's not you. It's just kind of the transcendence of you to this piece of paper. So you can't take that personally, because it has to be refined. It has to be crafted. It has to be kind of developed. You have to learn the rules before you can really break the rules.
Break them.
Yeah. Or bend them, or whatever you're going to do. But yeah, man, I mean, I was told no, so many times. I was told no before I went to school. I went to school, and then it was it was a mixed bag. It was like love and hate. Some teachers were really like, I love what you do. This is different. This is cool. And some teachers were like, yeah, don't do that. So it was like, it was challenging, And I actually have kept all the rejection emails that I've gotten to all the different companies. And, a lot of people were actually really cool. And if you sit down and you're kind of real with people and you talk to people, a lot of people are like, I like this, I would buy this, but I don't know how it's going to fit with what we do in our company. We make books that look like this, and we have stories that are like this. And I like this, but I don't know what to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got that a lot. Like I like this, but I don't know what to do with it. Or this is cool, but I don't know. It was too different. And I think that's one of the things that has worked for me, because I've been trying to develop my own thing that is different. Because I feel like if it looks like something that's already there, then what's the point? It's already been done.
Right. It's
probably been done better. We have to find our own way. And it's cool to look at artists and to have reference that's, you have favorite, whatever it is, you have favorites. But that doesn't mean that your stuff has to be, like a copy of that. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah. And I would especially encourage to not do that. You should show more about what it's their vibe, what's their interest. Yeah. It's almost like the way I like to describe it is when I look at the artwork, I look at Erik. I see, even though it's this is my first time actually meeting you face to face, it's no, it's congruent, it all makes sense. I'm yeah, the action and the person, it's very congruent. And I think I'm probably the same way for my art too. So what I think would be a cool way to transition is how did you kind of finally get the first book started for Ninjas and Robots?
Ninjas and Robots was originally, and it's been around forever, but originally it was a story called Knife Heart Road. All right. So this was before school. I was trying everything. I was just trying to do stuff.
Mm.
But I mean, I was working a full-time job. I was working at a UPS store, and I would just draw on nights and weekends, and that's what I would do. And back then, there was mangamagazine.net. Like, that was online, and that was the first place that I was kind of aware of where artists were getting picked up. And they didn't have a bunch of them, but they had a few artists that were actually getting paid to submit like weekly content, more or less. And so they would do these web comic series, and there was only a few, and they had different tiers. And I was the very bottom tier, where you're just trying to submit regularly, and if people like it enough, then you maybe have the hope of getting in the other thing. So that's what I was doing on nights and weekends. I was trying to update this comic, Knife Heart Road. But essentially, the characters were kind of the same, and a lot of the ideas were kind of there, and it just wasn't quite the quality that I wanted it to be, or that it needed to be, to kind of actually really be a thing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So in order to kind of develop that, that's why we started looking at school. It was kind of like, you know, I'm not happy at my job. I'm not enjoying that. It's not a good time anymore. And it had been like that for a long time. And I had really wanted to draw comics, and I specifically wanted to tell this particular story, but I just didn't have the skill set to be able to do it. So my wife was like, you know, you should go to school. If you're serious about this, you should go to school. So my two options were, A, I can quit my job and spend a year just working on this story and try to make it epic and see what I can do with it. Or B, I can quit my job and go back to school. And she went with B, you know, not A, and which is a good thing in retrospect, because, you know, I learned so much at school that I never would have been able to pick up alone. And I certainly wouldn't have been able to pick up that quickly. I wouldn't have been able to grow that fast. So when I went to school, the idea was to take this Knife Heart Road and be able to turn it into an actual comic, learn how to do that. And I knew that I had wanted kind of a fusion style of American comics and manga, because that's kind of, you know, where I came from and what I like. And that's what I went in for my interview. That's what I was basically saying. You know, I want to make my own comic, and I want to have this fusion style and whatever. And they were just like, okay, sure, you know, yeah, okay. And but the thing with the school is, you know, it's a 3-year program. The first 2 years, you don't really get to do much of what you want to do. Like, they're all assignments. So I could pull and pick characters sometimes, but it had to be within the realms of what they wanted. And
Right.
a lot of times they wanted specifically like superhero stuff. So for the first 2 years, a lot of it was just like superheroes and anatomy and layout and composition and design and balance and, you know, all that fun stuff. And then when I got to the 3rd year, then they started like giving us more freedom, and they were kind of like, well, what do you want to do? And so that's when I started trying to pull in my own stories and trying to incorporate, you know, the Knife Heart Road stuff as much as possible. And it eventually became like I started developing the characters, working more on the characters my 3rd year of school. And then, you know, it was one of my teachers that was just like, I was drawing stuff, and he made a comment, and he was like, oh yeah, Erik's drawing it. It's ninjas and robots. That's what he does. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah. So then that's when I was like, all right, well, you know, maybe Knife Heart Road is kind of ambiguous. Like, I have to explain what it means and the whole ninja meaning behind it and stuff. So it was kind of like, all right, well, I'm going to do ninjas and robots. So the names kind of changed. And then I started to really, honestly, like the first 6 months after school, after the 3-year program, like I was too burnt out to do anything. But then after that, I started like, the wheels started going, and I started getting some creativity back. And then, so then I just worked on that, and I did a 10-page pitch for, I think it was Saturday AM, because they had a contest. Yeah, they had a contest. So I did 10 pages of Knife Heart Road, just having Yuki and one other character, and that was it. And I didn't win, like, you know, just like all the other ones. Like, I didn't win that one either. But at least I had these 10 pages, and I had a storyboard. And so then in my town, there's a local arts council, and they were doing like a project grant for artists, local artists. And so I applied for that. And they were like, we normally don't do this, but if you really try to build it up and sell it, then maybe they'll whatever. And so I did, and like I gave them the 10 pages that I did, and the whole pitch of the story, and kind of this is how many books I want to do, this is my turnaround time, like the whole shebang. Made it try to be legit. And they were like, all right, cool. And so I won a grant to actually make the first Knife Heart Road comic, which became the Ninjas and Robots book. But it was just black and white. Like it was like minimum funding, but it was great. That's what I needed. And that kind of gave me like the kind of validity, the kind of legitimacy to be able to just sit down and be like, all right, this is a thing. And it wasn't just for me. Like, I think finding validity and legitimacy and what it is that you're doing, like, helps you kind of cope with other people and kind of live in a world where people are like, you shouldn't do that. And what are you going to do? Are you going to draw yourself money? Is that what you're going to do? And you want to be like, well, that's what the United States does, but
that's crazy.
But whatever. So I think that's part of it too, is just finding something to kind of let other people know that what you're doing is cool. And I think that you can do that lots of different ways. You can do that, through cons and getting commissions. You can do that through grants. You can do that if somebody will actually hire you. If a writer wants to pay you to draw their story, then those are things that then it's okay. Otherwise you're just kind of sitting alone in your studio and you're drawing, and you may or may not finish, because how we all are. We may or may not finish. But as soon as you make it a real thing, as soon as you start putting stuff on social media, as soon as you start, telling people about it and doing this stuff and setting deadlines for yourself, then it compels you to actually complete it.
Yeah.
And I think that's key, And at school, like, we always had deadlines to finish stuff, but then afterwards it's like, well, when does this due? I don't know. And so you don't do it. You're like, all right, well, I'm gonna play Street Fighter for a while, or I'm gonna watch some anime or whatever. And it's like you don't finish this thing. And so I think finding the deadlines, and that was great through the grant, because it was like I had to have everything done by this month, and not this month, but that month then, and I had to have receipts for everything and show them everything. And so it was just like, crap, dude, I got to do this.
Sense of urgency. Yeah.
And I think that's key. People have had it all throughout history, especially the people that accomplish stuff. That sense of urgency that you better jump on this or you're going to lose it. You're going to miss it. And I think if you don't have that in your life as an artist, you have to create it. You have to then create it.
Yeah, 100%. And then, like, a thing that I see a lot of times online is, like, a lot of people kind of like have this, like, just take your time. Like, what's the rush? Like, just do it at your own pace. And it sounds nice, because it sounds like, this is your baby. Take time with it.
Yeah.
Take as long as you need. But then, like, whenever you ask those people, like, okay, how long have you been working with your story? Like, I always ask that question. Cool. How long have you been working on your story? It's like, oh man, it's been like 5 years. Oh, cool. Have you done like any rough drafts? And nah, I'm still working out the story. Like, man, like, come on,
do it. Just whatever it is you want to do, you got to do that thing. And that's just, that's been my 100% message. It's like people say they want to draw comics. People say they want to, play in a band. People say they want to make movies. People say they want, okay, well, you just do it. That's it. It might not be the best thing ever, but at least if you have like a starting point, at least if you have a mile marker, then you have something to go from, and everything can be a little bit better after that. But you have to start. You can't wait for the stars to align and, for your game to be at its best, or whatever. Like, you just have to do it.
And you also have like a way to like track, like, okay, I can look back, like like if you were to look back at some of your early stuff from, maybe the original drafts of like Ninjas and Robots, you're gonna be like, whoa, it's like remarkably better now what I can do versus then. So it's like you have like a metric. Otherwise, it's just like, you don't know what the heck you're doing. You're just just all this time is blasting by, and it's like you don't really know if you're really making progress or not.
Yeah. You know, and I feel that's kind of like how DeviantArt was. I feel like that's kind of how Instagram is. And so I don't delete a lot of like those old posts. Like some of them are bad, but I feel like if you scroll through, then you can start seeing growth, especially on my
Same for
DeviantArt.
mine. Mine too, man.
It's
You
crazy.
scroll back, it's like, oh.
Yeah, it's like and some of it's really embarrassing to me.
Yeah.
Like it's really, but you know, I feel like that's good, and I feel like people need to see that, you know. So when I did Ninjas and Robots, like I did the Kickstarter, I did the graphic novel, I also did an art book for that.
And let's just put it out there for anyone who doesn't know that 2 books, both backed. Erik's a beast, okay? Like it's epic, man.
It's not me, man. It's the super awesome fans that have you know, put their money where their mouth is. It's like it's one thing to say you like something, it's another thing to support it monetarily.
Yeah.
I'm just so like thankful and grateful to those people, because I wouldn't be able to do it, you know, without their support, without their interest. You know, and a lot of people, and even kids like I went to school with, a lot of people will go to comic book conventions. They'll go to an artist's table. They'll ask them a billion questions. They'll get them to look at their portfolio and take up all their time and keep them from doing commissions, and they won't give them anything, man. They will not buy a sticker. They will not buy a print. They will not give them a tip. They will nothing. They will not even go online and then support anything. And
not even share.
They got to eat. They got bills. Like,
yeah, that's the thing too. Like I always try to tell as many people as I can, like all my students, everyone that follows me, you always want to offer value first to the person, because think about it. Like if I give to you, I'm expecting you to answer all my questions. I'm walking up to you expecting all my questions. But guess what? They don't realize like the reality is you're not the only one doing it. Like there's a lot of other people that are doing the same thing. So it's like if you go and maybe like offer some sort of value first, maybe like how can I help, you know, whatever your goal is. That's what I usually say. Find out immediately too. Like whoever you're talking with, whoever you want to form a kind of like friendship with, partnership, what is their goal? Like what are they working toward right now? And how can you be of help to that cause? That way, like, yeah, of course I want to like answer your question. Like, cool, man. Like, thanks for the help. You know, it's a reciprocal.
yeah.
So that's huge.
That's true, man. And that's key. And a lot of people that's not something that they teach people that, you know, and I mean, we should know, you should have common sense, but
it's not common all the time.
No, it's really not. It's really not.
But cool, man. So yeah, that's really good. Thank you for sharing that. So like, what are you really like working on now as far as like Ninjas and Robots? Is there, because you finished the 2nd book. Is there a 3rd one coming, or you didn't finish?
Second book's
working
on
the 2nd one.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, the first one's done. The first one's completed. The first one is out there. I take it with me to cons. It's available at local comic book stores.
So if you're watching this, you can actually go get it at a local comic book store.
Yeah, you can go, and it's in the Diamond Book. So Antarctic Press picked up Volume 1. So if anybody wants to go and get their shop to order it, they can do that. You can see Book 1. Book 2 was already kickstarted, and that was successful. And so they're essentially pre-orders for it. There are X amount of them. A lot of the stuff was exclusive only for Kickstarter, so you won't be able to get some of those things. But the book itself will be done. Will be coming out hopefully closer to the end of the year. I'll be done with that one. So that's what I'm working on now. I'm working on Book 2 now, and just trying to make that as good and as epic as it can.
That's exciting, man.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
It's way better than the first one.
That's cool.
But you know, it's those mile markers. It's the growth. You know, so that's always exciting to see.
Yeah, cool. Well, let me know when the date is available for anyone else who wants to get it.
I will.
And then we'll work that out. That's awesome, dude. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So cool, man.
You got more questions? We got.
Yeah. Was there anything else? Maybe we could just close off with that. Was there anything else you wanted to like, any kind of like final words to leave the audience?
I would like for anyone who dreams or desires to be a comic book artist or a manga artist or whatever, just draw every day. And I think having a sketchbook that you take with you everywhere is important. Just fill it up. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect. Whatever's on the page, just fill up the whole page. You have these pages, just fill them up, put stuff everywhere. you know, and just draw, look at life, look at things around you, not just other artists. You're not going to learn correct anatomy from other artists. It's all stylized and shorthanded, you know, but look at life and study your favorite artists too, you know, but you got to have that balance and draw, and you'll just get better and better. And, you know, you'll look back at those sketchbooks and you'll say, man, I draw a lot better now than I used to.
Yeah. It's all about the mileage.
Yeah, man. It really is. It really is.
Awesome. Epic. Glad to have you today, Erik. I guess we'll sign off with that to all who are listening. All right. Peace, guys.